Vacations change people's lives. They save up all year. I mean, it's an expensive investment, but it opens their eyes to the world. You get to open their children's eyes to the world, and people are passionate about it.
Hi, welcome back to How Much Can I Make? I'm your host Merav Ozeri, and today we're diving into the world of travel with an entrepreneur who saw a need in the industry and ran with it, or should I say actually sailed with it. My guest is Kelli Carpenter, co-founder of the groundbreaking company Our Family Vacations, which made history as the first travel company to design full-scale vacations specifically for LGBTQ families and their friends. Now rebranded as KelliGregg Travel, her company continues to lead the way, offering everything from luxury river cruises to curated group adventures around the world. So let's dive right in and hear how she built it from the ground up. Kelli, thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited to have someone from the travel industry.
I can't believe I'm your first travel industry person.
You are. Are there still a lot of travel agents?
Well, it actually went from one direction to the other. So all these online ability to book your own travel happened.
Right.
And people were like, oh, we don't need travel advisors anymore. We could just do it ourselves. Well, then all of a sudden, more companies launched that were doing this online travel. It got more confusing. People realize that they don't have anybody actually taking care of them. So they don't have anybody that if they need to cancel, that can help get that refund back. They can advise them on where to go and
Right.
things. You know, an actual person is more helpful than a bot on a website. And I also think a lot of people don't realize, and people do it differently, but it doesn't cost you anything extra to use a travel advisor. We get paid by the cruise line or the hotel or the tour operator.
You call yourself travel advisor and not travel agent. Please define for us the difference.
I actually refer to myself as a travel designer.
Designer, right.
I work on a lot of different projects that not only are the group's business, the charters business, and the individual business, but it may involve air, a cruise, a tour. It may involve so many different things, and you design a vacation for somebody. An agent, in my head, is somebody that basically just inputs into Sabre or an airline site and books your flight and books your hotel. You know what I mean? Like it's not coming up, it's not a creative position in my head. And to me, an advisor advises their clients and a designer creates magical vacations.
So let's back up for a second. You worked in marketing for large companies like Pepsi and Nickelodeon. And how did you make a switch from that to travel?
When I graduated from college, my main work was always in the marketing world. And my last marketing job was at Nickelodeon. And at the time, I had young children, and I realized that I wanted to have more time with them and less divert my time, especially at that age. So I left my Nickelodeon job and I still freelance for them, which gave me a lot of control of my time, but still kept my brain, working and kept those contacts going. And I always loved to travel. My family went on a cruise every year from the time that I can remember. So I was always, and my parents were avid travelers. So it was always part of my world. And I decided while freelancing for Nickelodeon, I saw a niche. I saw something missing in the travel world. There was an all lesbian travel company, an all gay male travel company. But at the time, and this was 23 years ago, 24 years ago, there was nobody that did this for LGBTQ families. And that was the beginning of the launch of the company, is that I felt like if I was searching for that world, there must have been so many other families, gay families, that were searching for that world. I had gone to Provincetown. I had gone to Family Week in Provincetown and seen what my kids saw. Like, look, mommy, other families that look like ours. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's definitely a place for this. But I had never worked in the travel industry. And at the time, I became friends with my now business partner and a guy that's like my brother at this point in time. And he had worked for Atlantis Events for years. He was their producer. And so he understood how that business worked. So with us, we launched this business, and it was a very long time ago. And it has taken many twists and turns along the way, just with our community changing, what our needs are changing. I now, do 8-9 trips a year.
Wow.
And only one of them is a family trip.
Only how many is a family trip?
Only one is a family trip now. The rest are adults only, because I ended up with all these empty nesters. that kids grew up on my trips, and then boom, they all still want to travel. So, I've diversified quite a bit, and it's about, I feel like in this industry, because it's constantly changing and your clientele is constantly changing, that you have to be flexible and sort of have your fingers on the pulse of what are people wanting right now? How do people feel like they want to travel safely? What can I do to help that happen? We had to do a big branding change. The name of my company was Our Family Vacations. And what I found as my clientele was growing up and I wanted to do these adult only trips is I do advertising. They'd be like, well, we can't do your trips. We don't have any kids. And it was still called Our Family Vacations. I was like, family's what you make of it. The branding change was we did it over the pandemic because we had very little to do other
Oh,
than
I have
lose
questions
weight.
about the pandemic, right?
And we did a branding change, and it was probably the smartest thing we ever did.
So walk me through the process. You decide to do a cruise trip to a destination. How do you take it from there? Do you create whatever you liked, wherever you like to go, or how does it work?
It works in a variety of ways. So, with our family trips, it's an interesting business model because there's only 2 weeks out of the summer that all kids in the United States are off of school. It's different on every part of the United States. So we have to cram that trip into those 2 weeks in July, pick one week, and then you also are creating a product during the most expensive time that everybody is traveling. So that it's an interesting business model, and it's where I'm happy my business has grown to be just beyond that. But that is usually either a family resort or a cruise ship with kid programs, because that's something that comes into account. You have to be able to take care of from babies to teenagers, from parents to grandparents, from people without kids to people that have one kid or four kids, or you just have to go through. What we used to do is go through the schedule and say, okay, if I'm a mother with a 3-year-old, what does every day look like? If I'm a grandmother that's here with my family, what does every day look for her? And you have to program for every single person on that trip. So that one trip a year is pretty formulaic after this amount of time. But as far as picking other trips, we listen to our clients about where they want to go. And I also pick places that I feel like is of interest to me that I've never been. And I'm sort of like, come join me. Let's go see the world together. And it usually ends up working out. I mean, I had always wanted to go to Egypt, but I was nervous to go with just myself and my wife. And Uniworld, one of the best travel partners I have, they have a river cruise company, and I work a lot with them. And they have a river cruise that goes down the Nile. I contacted them. I was like, I want to bring a group of 10 cabins. Let's just say we sold out the entire ship
I'm
because
sure.
there were so many LGBTQ people that were nervous to do the same thing I was nervous to do. And I have found that that has been a great strategy. It really has.
Is every destination safe for LGBT tourists? Are there places that you would not go?
There are certainly places I would absolutely not go. However, there are places that I wanted to go that you have to be respectful of what their laws are. I'll take Egypt, for example. It's, not known as the most LGBTQ friendly place.
Right.
However, if you're respectful about their laws, public displays of affection. I tell my gay male clients, I don't think you should go on Grindr. I think, there's things that you have to be respectful about and you have to follow their laws. We did a trip in the cruise left out of Morocco, out of Casablanca. And, it's interesting because we were staying at the Four Seasons pre-trip and they really did not want to put the same-sex couples into one bed. Like every time I would check in, they were like, we're going to give you 2 beds. And I was like, I don't want 2 beds. But I think it is what it is. And you talk to your clients in advance. And, we also go to many, many LGBTQ friendly countries. Like I host a tour every 2 years through Thailand, one of the most LGBTQ friendly countries that you could go to. And it is an absolutely magical experience. And I feel like you just have to understand where you're going and inform your clients. And I think that I just got back from South Africa a few weeks ago, and I didn't run into any issues. However, I've had other people that have. So I just think you just have to be aware, do your research. And that's what your travel advisor helps you do. And that would be one reason that you would want a travel advisor.
How did you get your first clients?
My business started off as one cruise ship charter a year. I was what would be considered a tour operator. So basically, you buy that ship, you repackage it with all of your programming. It already has the infrastructure, which makes it great, but you bring your own entertainment and parties and all of that, package it and resell it. So I ended up with a lot of clients. Well, actually, it wasn't even my idea. So we were doing this business, and we had a travel agency come to us, and they were like, have you ever considered just becoming a regular travel advisor? And I was like, no, I hadn't really thought about it. They're like, you realize your clients that are taking that one trip a year with you, all of them go on more than one trip a year. If they could book with you, the amount of additional revenue that you could get from not only them, but then they recommend you to their family members. And so it just goes on and on and on. So the first clients came from people that already traveled with me.
Okay.
And now they come from a lot of referrals. And like I said, I do river cruise charters. So those house about 200 clients, each on them. And so they also book additional trips and they tell their family and friends. So I would say mostly a word of mouth business. You do a great job. And vacations change people's lives. I mean, you have to
Totally, yeah.
imagine they save up all year. I mean, it's an expensive investment, but it opens their eyes to the world. You get to open their children's eyes to the world, and people are passionate about it. So they're going to go sell your story to somebody else. So I think that that's really important.
So 200 people is quite a large ship.
Our beginning cruises, when we first started, we were chartering 4,000 person ships. They
Wow.
were
And you filled it up?
Yep, we filled it up, and now we don't do that level of business on the large cruise ships. They've just gotten too big. I mean, these ships now are enormous, and so we do large groups. I have a large group on my family group on NCL Norwegian Cruise Lines in July, and I've got a little over 200 people. I've got a group out of on a mega yacht leaving out of Stockholm to Copenhagen on end of July. I've got 40 people on that. So it depends on the ship and it depends on the product.
So
So
you have to get the ship, get all the hotels in the different places, right?
yes,
There's a lot of liability involved also, correct?
basically what we do as a company, because we don't charter large cruise ships anymore, the contract is directly with the cruise line who has all the liabilities
Well,
managed.
okay.
I always say to somebody, they're like, they skipped a port, I'm going to sue. I was like, honey, you signed your life away when you signed that cruise ship document. You're not suing anybody. That's what travel insurance is for. But yeah, so it takes away a lot of our liability. We're a two-person company doing, all those bookings. So we work a lot with the cruise line and it does help to have their support.
Yeah, you have to have the support. How did the business change since COVID? Do people demand different things, more personal safety, etc.?
It was, an awful time for the travel industry. As it was, I mean, look, it was an awful time for everybody, but the travel industry specifically took some really solid hits just because we spent the first 3 or 4 months just giving people their money back and hoping that we were going to get those clients back when the pandemic was done. So we just were losing money and losing money and losing money. We got some help from the government. And I think the main thing that it changed is people realizing that things can change in a hot second. And travel protection and travel insurance changed. Well, I never had people want to take it out because they never want to spend the extra money. But since pandemic, they always take out travel protection and travel insurance. And I would say that's the biggest difference. The state of the world right now, I think people get a little bit anxious right now, but people are still traveling. And I always offer some great tips to get through an airport because airports are not easy right now and flying is not easy right now. One thing I would tell people that are traveling, there's something called the Airline Passenger Bill of Rights out that Pete Buttigieg put together. It was something that the EU had in place for a long time, and we finally have it here in the States. And it literally lays out for you your right as a paying passenger on board an airplane. When they delay you and you sit on the runway too long, they lose your luggage, they cancel your flight, all overbook your flight. All of this stuff has benefit to you. Not, of course, you don't want it to happen,
Right.
but just don't believe everything they tell you, and don't put your arms up in the air and be like, oh, this just stinks, and there's nothing I can do. There are things you can do, financial compensation, just different things to just always be aware of.
So your work, does it end at the end of the cruise or the end of the trip, or you have to still work with a group after the trip?
Well, my work, the weirdest thing is like in travel, you don't really have a day off, sort of. And you have to always remember it's not your vacation, it's their vacation. So when I'm hosting a trip, I'm already working on the next trip that's coming up, because there is the pulling it together and the sales piece and the production piece, and then you host the trip, and then it all starts over again. So I just got back from hosting a group on a celebrity cruise where my wife is a touring singer, and she's also a main stage singer on a lot of cruise ships. And we started this new brand called Gig Trips. So when she's on the main stage, I host a group of guests, and we all sail together, and they get to see her perform. And so we just got off of that on Sunday, and we leave again on Saturday. So pulling together all of the details for every single trip with very few days where you're actually not jet lagged and on the ground is an interesting process. And it's also a process that it's about time management. Because I work with people in all different time zones, I feel like from the time I wake up until the time I go to bed, I could be on the phone or my computer or answering emails. And, sometimes I just take a day. I say, Sunday, I'm not going to work, and I don't look at my emails. And, I do need to take those days probably more often just because our schedules are weird. We both have
Right.
strange travel schedules.
So, what advice would you give somebody that want to break into that business? What kind of skills do they need? What advice would you give them?
You need very, very strong executive functioning skills because you need to be able to manage the time. Every single minute that guest is on a trip that you book for them needs to be able to be accountable for. So, the truth is like if you're like, oh my gosh, I booked the hotel on the 18th and the tour is on the 19th and I messed that up, you have to really be able to look at a schedule, manage a schedule, and manage times. I would also say that you need to be a person-friendly, forward person. Like if, I get people that call me and they have wonderful things to say to me, and I get people that are mad, and you have to be a great listener. It does do the customer is always right philosophy. And I'm going to say something sort of interesting is that people always say, do you get mad when people complain? And I was like, I'm going to say 90% of the time that people are complaining to me, it's a legitimate complaint.
Interesting.
And it's a lot of money that people are spending. And I feel like there's construction at the hotel and they're at a five-star hotel and paid for a five-star hotel. That's a legitimate complaint. So I think to be a really good listener and be a great problem solver, because you also may end up with somebody that is in London and all the flights have been canceled and I need to find them a hotel and I need to figure out what their travel insurance claim is going to be. You need to help them through the process. So you have to be a really good problem solver. Those would be the three things that I would think would be best if you want to jump into the travel industry.
Is it a lucrative business these days?
The travel business is interesting because some people do it as a part-time job. You can do it as much as you want to do it. The business is what you decide you're going to take in. So a lot of people do it sort of like real estate. I think a lot of people do it on the side because you can sort of control your hours. Now, how I do it is full time. I don't know how long my body can, keep traveling the world and hosting people. But mine is a full-time job, but not everybody's. So I think some people can go work for a travel agency and be more of a phone taker of bookings and things like that. Or you could be more creative with it. Like you could be somebody that's like, you know what? I've got 200 people that I think would love to do my daughter just graduated from University of Delaware, a University of Delaware reunion cruise. I'm going to start with that project. And you book it and you do it and you see, okay, do I like this? Do I not like this? It's a great way to sort of dip your toe in. There's self-training courses that you could sign up for. There's different ways to do it.
So, but how do you make money? You make a commission from everything because you said before that traveling through an agency is not necessarily more expensive.
Correct. So how it works is you will work for an agency and that agency does whatever split that you agree upon with them, with you, because they're going to manage the money and the bookings.
Oh, so it is like real estate.
So let's say I'm just going to say I get 70% and my agency gets 30%.
Okay.
So all of my bookings go through them. So my commission, though, goes through them too. So basically, the cruise line may pay me 15% commission on the thing that I did. They're going to pay the agency that 15%, and then I'm going to get my split of that.
Okay. Wow, it works just like real estate. You're right about that.
Yeah. It's a very similar, yeah.
What trend do you see for this coming year and going forward in travel?
Oh, if I only had a crystal ball. I'm nervous because I feel like it's the world's a crazy place. Now, when I go travel, I don't feel it anywhere else. Now, I don't know if that's going to change, but people are nervous about the airport experience. People are nervous about are other people in other parts of the world going to hate us because of we're disrupting everything right now. There's a lot of questions, and I don't have the answers to those questions. All I know is that I'm still traveling and my clients are still traveling. And so far, so good. We've all been okay. So I feel like post-pandemic, one thing that I would say changed is people also realize life is short and there's places they want to go see. And I'm finding clients are being a little more exotic with their travels. They're not just wanting to go to Europe, they're wanting to go to different parts of the world. And I'm really thrilled about that.
So you do other travel besides cruise ships?
I do land tours. Every 2 years, I do a land tour through Thailand. We've done two through Ireland. We are doing another one in Scotland. So we do land tours also.
What do you prefer? What do you like best?
They're really different,
But land tour is a little less work than the cruise, right?
For the clients, land tours I find maybe a little more harder because you have to unpack and repack.
Yeah.
Every place you go. Cruises, what I love about it is you unpack once and you get to see the world. So
Right.
it's there's an ease to that clients really like, and for me it makes it a lot easier too.
What's the biggest challenge of your job?
My biggest challenge of my job is I have to trust my destination specialists on the ground. Like if I'm booking a trip through Japan for a client, it's not going to be me I work with a local tour operator and they have to deliver for me or else I look like a failure. So it's those relationships that become vital and important. And so some of the anxiety I always have is like, what if they're not able to deliver? Or what if they don't deliver? And it's 3 o'clock in the morning and I'm not going to answer my phone. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's more that kind of anxiety. The other biggest challenge is sort of like you just asked me, the future, as we saw with the pandemic, it's like it can change in a hot second. So, what I do, it's a luxury to be able to travel and
Right.
and people have to feel confident about the market. They need to feel confident about their financial status and then they need to feel safe traveling. And those are three pretty big things.
What's the biggest reward?
Oh my gosh, that I get to see the world with people that I respect, I love, people that have been traveling with me for 22 years. I'll tell you the other great reward is I sign into Facebook and the amount of people that have made lifelong friendships on the trips that I've hosted, and they all go see each other and visit each other, plan their next trip together. And sometimes when I feel frustrated with my work, it's the only thing I find Facebook really good for. I sign into Facebook and I'm like, look how many friendships have been created because I do what I do. And that makes me feel good.
Wow. Do you have any particular story of a certain trip that comes to mind that was like amazing that stays with you forever?
Well, I mean, you know what story stays with me forever is the very first cruise ship charter I did. So a long time ago, it was myself and my business partner, and we had one assistant. We did every booking on our own. And you have to imagine if you're an LGBTQ family, nobody came traditionally to your family. So every family has a unique story. So we heard every one of those family stories, and we had not met any of them in person. So the minute that Greg and I walked on stage to welcome everybody to the cruise, and we looked around, realizing that we had talked to every single person in that room, heard every single person's story. And I was like, this is powerful. And I will never forget that moment. And I've had many of those moments since. But that first time of walking on stage and being like, everybody's in here has got a fantastic story to share. So that was like my biggest moment of knowing that we were onto something very special.
Yeah, sounds like it. I was wondering if AI can take your job and design trips.
It's interesting with AI, and I had a real fear of it in the beginning, and I started studying it and listening to interviews about it of people that I respected. And one of them said, if you're somebody that's living in fear and not learning AI because you're scared AI is going to take your job, AI is going to take your job. What you need, AI is not going anywhere. So
Right.
what we have to do is learn how to have AI help us do our jobs better. AI, I can type in create a 7-day itinerary in Italy and but what they don't have, they'll give ideas that are not real options. You can't use that as the Bible of travel because the restaurants will be closed, the train won't be working on that day. But for somebody to come to me and said, I put into AI that I wanted to go to Italy and I want to spend 7 days, and here's what the idea is. What do you think? That's a great thing for me because we're starting from somewhere. I don't find it to be a terrible tool. I also use it to create my documents for the guests. I write everything. I input it into there. They format it, they make it look nice. Like it can't write my knowledge,
Right.
but it can help create a better product. I make myself practice AI. I go on every day and I learn a new prompt so I can learn to be really skilled at it so it can better what I do. And I think that, not everybody is in the same arena as I am. My goal is just not to be scared of it, just to make it better at my job.
Right, because it's here to stay, that's for sure. Okay, well, thank you so much.
Thank you for
I'm
having me.
so happy to have somebody in the travel industry. That's very good.
Anytime.
By the way, do you have to speak all those languages?
No, and I speak a little bit of French, but I do not speak multiple languages, and it is a big regret of mine that as a younger person I didn't start. And not that I couldn't start now, but I thought about making it one of my New Year's goals, and I had other ones that I felt like more important. So there you go. But
We all do
I do
that.
wish I spoke more languages. I am very impressed by people that do.
All right, Kelly.
All right, thank you
Thank
for
you
having
so
me.
much. All right, bye-bye. Okay, that's a wrap for today. If you have a comment or question or would like us to cover a certain job, please let us know. Visit our website at howmuchcanimake.info. We would love to hear from you. And on your way out, don't forget to subscribe and share this episode with anyone who is curious about their next job. See you next time.